What's up, everybody? What's up? What's up? What's up? We are back for episode 13. Episode 13. We are 13 days in, 13 straight days into our Black history in the Bible, our Black history nuggets. We have been unpacking some gems, unpacking some gems. Today, in this lesson, we are going to talk about one of oh man, I don't even know how to describe this. But one of the big, um, oh man, how do I want to say this? Um, the I used the biggest cover up before, so I can't use the biggest cover up, the greatest cover up. But this is another way that we have been bamboozled and hoodwinked. Now, for most of us, for most, if not all of us that are watching this, you've probably heard, if you grew up in the church or anything like that, then you probably grew up hearing that we are Gentiles. People that look like me are Gentiles because we are quote unquote not Jews. And so we've been told that we are Gentiles and our European brethren, um, or better yet, those from Israel, those are the ones who are Jews, quote unquote Jews. Now, there are a couple things we need to understand. First of all, the first thing is this. Um, we know that there were 12 tribes. We know that there were 12 tribes, the 12 tribes of Israel. One of those tribes was the tribe of Judah, the tribe of Judah, which is where they get the word Jew from, the word Jew, because of one of the tribes, Judah. Now, what's interesting is this. We know that there were, the two separate kingdoms, the northern and the southern kingdom. And the southern kingdom was Judah and Benjamin. And the other 10 kingdoms were the northern kingdoms. We know that they split. And but when you think about how I'm not gonna say most, but when our, when these individuals are described, when Jews are described, when they talk about themselves, when we use the term Jews, or when we are referring to those individuals who are, say that they are from the children of Israel, they call themselves Jews. The problem is that if they call themselves Jews, that would mean that every single one of them is from the tribe of Judah. Let me say that again. If they call themselves Jews, that means all of them are from the tribe of Judah. The only problem is there were 12 tribes. So if all of them are Jews, that means, I mean, none of them are from, any of the other tribes. It just doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Which leads us to question, I mean, are they, who they say they are? And so that's the question we want to answer today. And so let's begin by, as always, looking at scripture. Looking at scripture. So in Genesis chapter 9, verse 18 says, "Now the sons of Noah who went out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And Ham was the father of Canaan. These three were the sons of Noah, and from these the whole earth was populated." So, as we've talked about before, everybody on the earth is a descendant of one of these three sons, Shem, Ham, or Japheth. Everybody is a product of one of these three sons. When you get to Genesis chapter 10, you find what is called the Table of Nations. The Table of Nations. When you begin in verse 1, it talks about how, as a matter of fact, I don't even have this slide up. So let me read it for you from the actual Bible. In Genesis chapter 10, in verse 1, it says, "Now this is the genealogy of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and sons were born to them after the flood." All right. And so then it begins to break down these three sons and their descendants. These three sons and their descendants. When you get to, I'm going to jump down to verse 6, what we see on the screen. The sons of Ham were Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. The sons of Cush were Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Raamah, and Saptakub, and the sons of Raamah were Sheba and Dedan. So these were Ham's descendants. All right, these were Ham's descendants. Now, in verse 20, after it gives you the lineage of Ham, after it breaks down Ham's lineage, in verse 20 it says, these were the sons of Ham according to their families, according to their languages, in their lands and in their nations. All right, when you get to verse 21, it mentions Shem. It says the sons of Shem were Elam, Asher, Apharxad, Lud, and Aram. The sons of Aram were Uz, Hul, Gether, and Mash. Apharxad begot Salah, and Salah begot Eber. All right, so that begins Shem's lineage. All right. Now, when we get to the end of Shem's lineage, in verse 31, it says, these were the sons of Shem according to their families, according to their languages, in their lands, according to their nations. So Ham's and Shem's lineage, both of their lineages, it begins by saying what? These are the sons of Ham, or these are the sons of Shem. And then at the end, it says these were the, sons of Ham, these were the sons of Shem. But let's go back and let's look at Japheth. In verse 2, it says the sons of Japheth were Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshach, and Tyrus. The sons of Gomer were Ashkenaz, Riphath, and Torgamar. The sons of Javan were Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodanim. From these, verse 5 says, from these the coastland peoples of the Gentiles were separated into their lands, everyone according to his language, according to their families, and to their nations. So I want you to notice, when in Japheth's lineage, it begins saying the sons of Japheth, and then it breaks it down. And in verse 5, instead of saying, like it does in verse 20 and verse 31, with the end of Ham's and Shem's lineage, instead of saying these were the sons of Ham or these were the sons of Shem, instead of saying at the end in verse 5, instead of saying these were the sons of Japheth, it says from these the coastland peoples of the Gentiles were separated into their lands. This is the first time in the Bible the word Gentiles is used, and it's referring to those individuals who are descendants of Japheth. Let me say that one more again. This is the first time the word Gentiles is used, and it's referring to those who are descendants of Japheth. Now, what we've always been told is that Gentiles are all of us, quote unquote, non-Jews. All of us non-Jews. We are Gentiles. But what we see here from Scripture is that those who are descendants of Japheth are labeled, according to the Bible, Gentiles. They are labeled Gentiles. All right. So the sons of Japheth. Now, how do we know that? How do we know that? Well, if you think about it, where did Paul go do ministry? In Romans 11, verse 13, Paul says, for I speak to you Gentiles, inasmuch as I am an apostle to the Gentiles. So Paul was an apostle to the Gentiles. He went in to preach and share the gospel to the Gentiles, right? Now, if Gentiles are what we have been told, if Gentiles are all non-Jews, right? All non-Jews, and as we've been told, us, colored folk, all right, we're Gentiles. If we are Gentiles, that would have to mean that Paul would have gone through all of Africa preaching to Gentiles, right? It means that he would have had to have gone through all of Africa preaching to Gentiles. But when we read Acts, when we read the New Testament, Paul only went to Europe. When you look at Paul's missionary journeys, Paul only went to Europe. So if Gentiles are all of us who are quote unquote non-Jews, that would have to mean that that means that there should have been some quote unquote non-Jews in Africa. There should have been some Gentiles, better yet, in Africa, right? But Paul only goes to Europe to do ministry. Why does he not go Why does he not go to Africa? The reason is because we have been bamboozled and hoodwinked into believing that we are Gentiles, when according to Genesis chapter 10 and verses 2 through 5, Gentiles are those who are descendants of Japheth. Gentiles are those who are descendants of Japheth. Have mercy. Have mercy. Have mercy. See, this thing has been flipped around because, like I said, we've been bamboozled and hoodwinked because we've been told that we are Gentiles and they are quote unquote Jews or the Hebrews. They're the God's chosen people. When in reality, we are the Hebrews, God's chosen people, according to Scripture, and they are the Gentiles. Have mercy. Have mercy. Have mercy. It boggles my mind when I see that we have been told that we are the Gentiles, we are the heathens, and they are God's chosen people. But when we look at Scripture, it tells us something totally different. It tells us something totally different. Okay? So, how is there any more proof? Is there any more proof? How do we know? How do we know? Let's see. Because we talk about the Bible, but I got a whole lot more scriptures. But let's look at some history. Let's look at some historical facts. All right, because this thing is not what I'm sharing. This is not hidden. This is not something that nobody else knows, only us. All right, or only me, or a few of us. Let's look at some more scripture. Excuse me. Let's look at some historical facts. I'm gonna give you what they say. All right, I'm gonna give you what they say. Let's look at their proof. All right, let's look at their proof. All right, so let's start here. This is on the website theconversation.com. Theconversation.com. It says Ashkenazic. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me pause, because I didn't even break this thing down for y'all. I'm sorry, I didn't break this thing down for y'all. All right. So let's go back. So let me come out of here, because I need to break this thing down so we understand what we are looking at here. All right. So let's go back here. So as you can see, when Paul did ministry, in let's go back here. All right, in Genesis chapter 10. Genesis chapter 10. So we have the sons of Japheth were Gomer. All right. Gomer is the Celts, CLTS. All right. The Celts, that area. You have Magog, which is Russia. You have Madai, which is the Medes. You have Javan, which is Greece. You have Tubal, which is Spain. You have Meshach, which is Armenia. You have Tyrus, which is Thrash. You have Ashkenaz, which is Germany. You have Torgamar, which is the Caucasus area, or the Caucasus Mountains. Okay, and so these particular areas are where the quote unquote Europeans came from. This is where the Jews came from. These are where the Gentiles came from. All right. So why is that important? It's important because the people that we see today, who are in that particular area, are not native to that area. The people that we see today in what we today call Israel, they're not native to that area. All right. How do we know? Well, theconversation.com, Ashkenazic Jews, all right, Ashkenazi meaning German Jews, mysterious origins unraveled by scientists thanks to ancient DNA. Have mercy. It says, where do the Jewish people come from? This is a question that anthropologists, historians, and theologists have studied for millennia. According to mythology, the Judeans descended from three patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who are buried in the cave of the patriarchs in Hebron, a Palestinian city and World Heritage Site located in the southern West Bank, 19 miles south of Jerusalem. I'm going to jump down. For a more scientific take on the Jewish origin debate. Now, let me pause right here. First of all, the word Jewish is a made-up word, all right? Because Jewish, as a matter of fact, Jew is not even in the Bible. When I say not in the Bible, meaning it's in your translation, but it's not in the original language. All right. The word you'll find there is Judean. All right. So that word Jew or Jewish is a made up word. Jewish ish meanings is kind of like so ish is like it's kind of like blackish. So the individual they're kind of blackish. It was kind of reddish. Not really that, but kind of sort of. Okay, that's where the term Jewish comes. So not really a Jew, but kind of. All right. So, but it says for a more scientific take on the Jewish origin debate, recent DNA analysis of Ashkenazic Jews, a Jewish ethnic group, revealed that their maternal line is European. European. It has also been found that their DNA only has 3% ancient ancestry, which links them with the Eastern Mediterranean, also known as the Middle East, namely Israel, Lebanon, parts of Syria, and Western Jordan. This is the part of the world Jewish people are said to have originally come from, according to the Old Testament. But 3% is a minuscule amount, and similar to what modern Europeans as a whole share with Neanderthals. So given that the genetic ancestry link is so low, Ashkenazic Jews' most recent ancestors must be from elsewhere. They must be from somewhere else because they're not from what we today call the Middle East. They're not from Lebanon. They're not from Israel, quote unquote. All right? They're not from there. Let me give you some more. NBCnews.com. Most Ashkenazi Jews are genetically European. Surprising study finds. The origin of the Ashkenazi Jews who come most recently from Europe, has largely been shrouded in mystery, but a new study suggests that at least their maternal lineage may derive largely from Europe. Though the finding may seem intuitive, it contradicts the notion that European Jews mostly descend from people who left Israel and the Middle East around 2,000 years ago. Instead, a substantial proportion of the population originates from local Europeans who converted to Judaism. Mercy. This is what they say. See, but if you say this stuff in public, you would be considered anti-Semitic. But I'm just reading what they say on their own websites. I'm just reading what they say. Did you know, and you can Google this, it is illegal to do a DNA test in Israel. It is illegal. Why is that? Probably because they don't want their own people to know that they ain't Jewish, or better yet, that they're not from there. It's illegal. Mercy. This thing is so deep. It's so deep. I'm gonna give you one more. All right. Now this here is on reaganlibrary.gov. Reagan, you know, the president Reagan, the president. All right. Now this is a bunch of, I don't know if this is, so this is let me see, I'm gonna go back up. This is the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library Digital Library Collections. All right. Folder titled Jewish. All right. So you got a letter here from the Anti-Defamation League. So you got a bunch of, so this is from Rabbi Morton Rosenthal, or CC to him. And so we got a bunch of documents here. Bunch of documents on here, but I'm going to scroll down to this particular one here. And this one here says the hidden tyranny, the issue that dwarfs all other issues. And so I think this is some kind of a letter or some kind of exchange from an individual called Harold Wallace Rosenthal, a quote unquote Jew, and some other. I'm assuming maybe some reporter or something like that. But listen to this. I'm gonna just read a little bit of it. In a highly confidential interview with a Jewish administrative assistant to one of this nation's ranking senators, he said, "It is a marvel that the American people do not rise up and drive every Jew out of this country." The Jew, Mr. Harold Wallace Rosenthal, made this statement after admitting Jewish dominance in all significant national programs. He said, "We Jews continue to be amazed with the ease by which Christian Americans have fallen into our hands. While the naive Americans wait for Khrushchev to bury them, we have taught them to submit to our every demand." Asked how a nation could be captured without their knowing it, Mr. Rosenthal attributed this victory to absolute control of the media. He boasted of the control of Jewish control of all news. Any newspaper which refused to acquiesce to controlled news was brought to its knees by withdrawing advertising. Failing in this, the Jews stop the supply of newsprint and ink. It's a very simple matter, he stated. Asked about men in high political office, Mr. Rosenthal said that no one in the last 3 decades has achieved any political power without Jewish approval. Americans have not had a presidential choice since 1932. Roosevelt was our man. Every president since has been our man. When the U.S. foreign policy was mentioned, the bedroom confidence of the interview was all but set aside. With disdain and mockery, he sneered at the American stupidity, saying, "It is Zionist communist policy from beginning to end." Yet the scientists think this Jewish policy will benefit America. He cited detent and Angola as examples of Jewish diplomacy. The credulous nature of Americans drew only contempt from him. The interview continued on an almost omniscient plane. We Jews have put issue upon issue to the American people. Then we promote both sides of the issue as confusion reigns. With their eyes fixed on the issues, they fail to see who is behind every scene. We Jews toy with the American public as a cat toys with a mouse. The blood of the masses will flow as we wait for our day of world victory. Have mercy. Have mercy. Have mercy. I'm going to skip down to this part right here. It says, the naive politicians in Washington are gullible. Most of them are not too bright, so the powerful Jewish lobbyists influenced this practice years ago, and there is no one strong enough to stop it. Some of that money is even returned to the United States and spent on Zionist propaganda efforts, much of it through B'nai B'rith and the Conference of Jewish Organizations and the World Jewish Congress. The Jewish Agency is a funding arm, a sort of body of B'nai B'rith officials. There is nothing wrong with sending American dollars to Israel tax-free, so long as we are smart enough to get away with it. Let's reverse this conversation for a minute. You made it clear and quite vociferously that you don't like Jews. Why do you hate us? Mr. Rosenthal, I do not hate anybody. I said I hate what the Jews are doing to us, and especially as it relates to any and everything that related to Christianity. I hate their deceit, trickery, cunning, and their detestable dishonesty. Does that make me anti-Semitic? If it does, then I'm anti-Semitic. Have mercy. Anti-Semitism does not signify opposition to Semitism. There is no such thing. Anti-Semitism does not signify opposition to Semitism. There is no such thing. It is an expression we Jews use effectively as a smear word, used to brand as a bigot like you guys. Anyone who brings criticism against Jews, we use it against hate mongers. Mercy. Mercy. I'm just reading what's on the reaganlibrary.gov website. Mercy. But if I said any of this, if you said any of this in public, you would be considered, quote unquote, anti-Semitic. Listen. We have been. Listen, I got more to share with you. I got more to share with you with this, this whole Gentile thing. According to the Bible, we're not Gentiles. We're not Gentiles. According to the Bible, we're not Gentiles. Those who are descendants of Japheth are Gentiles. But what they have done is they have confused us. They have confused us into thinking that we are Gentiles when the reality is that we are not Gentiles. We're not. They're the ones that are Gentiles. They're the ones. Let me give you a little bit more information. Then I'm gonna land this plane. I'm gonna close this thing out. All right. As I said, Ashkenazi. All right. Says jewishvirtuallibrary.org. The name Ashkenaz, which is a grandson of Japheth, Genesis chapter 10. The name Ashkenaz was applied to the Middle Ages to Jews living along the Rhine River in northern France and western Germany. The center of Ashkenazi Jews later spread to Poland, Lithuania, and now there are Ashkenazi settlements all over the world. The term Ashkenaz became identified primarily with German customs and descendants of German Jews because they came from Germany. This here is the Rhine River. All right. Notice where it is. It's in Germany. It's in Germany. All right. So these individuals, so you got two types of Jews. You got the Ashkenazi, considered the largest Jewish group with ancestry primarily from Eastern Europe, like Poland, Russia, and Germany. Then you got the Sephardic, descendants of Jews who lived in the Iberian Peninsula, basically Spain and Portugal, with a distinct culture and language. So this is the crazy part, all right? This is the crazy part. You've read this scripture a million times, but you never paid it any mind, all right? You never paid it any mind, all right? The Bible prophesied, told us that the Gentiles would occupy Jerusalem, that they would be right now in the area that we call Israel. Luke 21 verse 24 says, but when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then you know that its desolation is near. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let those who are in the midst of her depart, and let not those who are in the country enter her. For these are the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. Uh-oh. I didn't write that correctly. Hold on. Let me see. Let me read it from my Bible. Let me read it from my Bible, because I didn't just mess y'all all up. Because I did not write that correctly. All right, I did not type that correctly. Luke 21:24 says, and they will fall by the edge of the sword and be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem will be trampled by Gentiles until the time the Gentiles are fulfilled. Jerusalem will be trampled by Gentiles. Trampled by Gentiles. All right, there we go. Jerusalem will be trampled by Gentiles, meaning occupied by Gentiles. And who is over in Jerusalem right now? Gentiles. Gentiles. According to Genesis chapter 10, verses 2 through 5, those who are descendants of Japheth are Gentiles. So those who are in Jerusalem right now are Gentiles. All right, but let me give you another text. All right. In Genesis chapter 9, verse 27, prophesied about this as well. May God enlarge Japheth. May God enlarge Japheth. Remember, Japheth is the father of Europeans, right? Who are basically Gentiles. May God enlarge Japheth, and may he inhabit the tents of Shem, meaning the place of Shem, right? Now remember, Shem are the Hebrews. All right. What is their land? The land of Canaan. All right. Or what we today call Israel. So may God enlarge Japheth. All right. May he dwell in the tents of Shem, which is exactly what we see today. Japheth, or the Gentiles, are dwelling in the tents of Shem. Have mercy. When I say Shem, meaning the dwelling place, all right, the location where the true chosen people, the children of Israel, should be. And let me say this as I close on this particular stream today. Why is this thing so important? Why am I so passionate about this? I'm so passionate about this because, first of all, it's truth. It's truth. It's not something that you're going to hear in your church every week, but it is truth. It is truth. And I know it's not something that people want to talk about because we don't want to ruffle any feathers. We don't want people to be uncomfortable. All right. But it's truth. How can you talk about the Bible? How can you preach the Bible? How can you share the Bible and not share all truth? It doesn't make sense to me. How can you share it and not share all truth? We can't, it's not a buffet. We can't pick and choose what we choose to share, what we think is important and what's not. All of it's important. What did Jesus say? You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. This stuff is important, number one, because it's truth. It's truth. And number two, because we need to know how we are being led astray by what's taking place over there in Israel. How we have, some of us believe that those are God's people and we need to protect Israel. There are a whole lot of evangelicals that believe that we need to protect Israel, not understanding that that's not Israel. That's not Israel. In Genesis chapter 12, when God says to Abraham that he is going to bless those who bless Israel, he's not talking about those folk over there. He's talking about God's going to bless those who bless people in this country who look like me and you. That's what he's talking about. That's what he's talking about. And if we don't understand that, then we being bamboozled just like them. But I'm gonna end on that note. Because I've been getting fired up. But this stuff gets me fired up. Listen, I appreciate you guys viewing. If you are watching this on YouTube, if you have not done so, please like, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you in the next video. Bless.